kids.
This is Learning to Dad
I'm the cool dad. That's my thing.
with Tyler Ross.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
I'm gonna have fun, and you're gonna have fun.
All right, we're rolling. Welcome to Learning to Dad. My name is Tyler Ross, and I am pumped that our guest today is Troy Casey, the certified health nut. What's up, man?
Hey, man, I'm so happy to be here, Tyler.
Yeah, super grateful for your time. I've enjoyed your YouTube channel, your Instagram. I just friended you on Facebook, so I'll look for an accept. And here's a rundown quickly of the things I know about you, but we'll talk so much more. So you're the certified health nut. You are a co-founder of Man Tribe. You're in comedy. You've done tons of work in the Amazon rainforest with herbs and other things. At one time, you were a Versace model. And to this day, you remain a handsome, fit, trim man. You're a trainer, certified through the Czech Institute, which I'm learning about Czech so much, and he's been great. And I know you've got my vote for your campaign as president for the planet in 2020.
Yeah, baby.
That's what I know.
President of planet Earth.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your professional journey. I believe the earliest thing that I know about your professional biography is being a Versace model, being in Milan. Can you tell me how you got into that and kind of the evolution to leaving that?
Yeah, so I was in school. I was in college, kind of on the fast track to going nowhere. Just trying to do my thing, I realized, I didn't know who I was back then, right? There I am, an 18, 19-year-old kid. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I'm going to community college, and I didn't have a bunch of calculus behind me. So, you have to go through all those math prerequisites. And I didn't realize this because I didn't do any college prep or any of that stuff. I was actually in juvenile hall my last year of high school, or the first semester of my last year of high school. And so I didn't do any college prep. So I got in there and I was like, oh, I need all this math. Well, no, what the reasoning behind that was science and math jobs made more money. So I instantly was like, in college, I'm like, okay, well where's the money?
Science and math.
I was like, how do I make money? That was my mentality. I mean, they don't teach you anything in school. That's the crazy thing. I came out of there going, I basically didn't know anything about myself or where I was going. Actually, the last 6 months of my 17th year, I spent in juvenile hall, and I think I learned the most about myself I ever did just being with myself and being incarcerated. And so I came out, I went back to high school, and high school again, I finished high school, but there wasn't any substance, and maybe I wasn't in the right programs. I don't know, but there wasn't that much substance. They didn't teach about me. They didn't teach about spirituality. They didn't teach about nature. They didn't teach about things that were fundamentally going to affect you. They didn't teach me how to make money. It was basically training to get a job or a good job in some kind of industry. And so then I went through the college situation, and so I had to do all this math prerequisites, and I had I don't even think I had full algebra. So I had to go back to square one. I had to go to algebra 1, algebra 2, and each one of these are a semester, all the way up to calculus and derivatives. And I think that was like 5 or 6 semesters. So what is that? That's 3 years, right? Just, so I filled all my other prerequisite, but I had 3 years of math prerequisites just to get into a 4-year university and start studying the sciences.
Yeah.
So, who knows where that road would have taken me. But the fact of the matter is, quite a few people said, hey, you should be a model, blah, 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 blah. People walked up to me in public places and said that. And I didn't really know how to go about that, but I asked a few questions here and there. I was in New York one summer. I started taking pictures, went into Wilhelmina, and they hooked me up with some agencies in LA. And one thing led to the next. And next thing you know, I quit college. And without even a hesitation. Yeah. And there's quite an illusion with the modeling industry as well. I really thought there was going to be a ton of money available there. Now, there was definitely good money and good experience and good opportunity, but the industry wasn't what I thought exactly it was going to be. And so, but I quit college without even hesitation.
Yeah, where was this geographically? And of course, I got to ask you how you ended up in juvie.
So I was living in Marin County, and my parents got in trouble with the law, and they sent me out with some of their friends from the Haight-Ashbury, their old San Francisco friends. I was living on the East Coast at the time, and so I was living in Marin County, put myself through high school, etc. And I was dealing a little bit of LSD on the side, and my girlfriend's father didn't like me very much. And, one of the cousins said something to somebody, and next thing you know, he had the detectives looking out for me, and they caught up to me. And luckily I was before I was 18, I got into that type of situation. Years later, we're finding out that the CIA realized that LSD was curing alcoholism, and Paul Stamets is realizing we could probably cure PTSD with psilocybin. Psilocybin's now being decriminalized in Oakland and Denver. And, the real medicines of the world are now being exposed. Now CBD's legal, hemp, marijuana's legal in most of the states now, even recreationally. And so it's a very interesting time. Things are changing, but people used to get, people still do get put in prison for that type of thing. And luckily it was before I was 18. So when I got out, there I was, a young man, even as a boy locked up, it was like, your freedom is everything. So when I got out, I had my last year as senior high school, and I just really enjoyed my life. And then when I got into college, I really enjoyed all that as well. And just having my freedom. So, and then what was the next question that you asked?
Yeah. So how you got Wilhelmina, you ended up in Milan modeling for Versace. I know a lot of your health background that you've at least talked about in other podcasts and such, and in fear of going over that, I don't want to, oversaturate necessarily that, but tell me what your next move was. Did you leave Milan and end up in the Amazon?
Oh, no. So what happened was, so I was in San Diego. I was going to school down there, started modeling, moved up to Los Angeles, realized that I had to go to Milan to really make a career for myself as a male model. And about 4 months later, I left there, and this is 1989. And then I used to have digestive problems, and I would bloat, and I would gain a lot of water weight. I get really puffy. And the agents were like, "Oh, honey, you're fat," Yeah. And I didn't know what was going on with my body, but I felt like shit. And I was just like, so I went down to the American bookstore and got books on whatever nutrition I could find, health and healing. And I started reading about food, and lo and behold, Captain Crunch and Pop-Tarts wasn't real food. And I was like, wow, who knew? I'm just an American. I grew up on TV dinners and all sorts of sugar cereals. Mm-hmm. And so just right there, eating whole fruits and vegetables, whole foods, that was a brand new principle for me. Instantly, I started, my digestive tract would start gurgling, and I would clean out, and I'd be like, wow, just eating fruits and vegetables, and I'm shitting like a masterpiece. I'm feeling like a champ. And I was like, wow. And then I kept reading the literature, and I learned about fasting and herbs and internal purification. And I came back to the States, and I bought a juicer, and then I did my first 10-day juice cleanse and looked and felt amazing. And there I was only in my mid-20s, early 20s, mid-20s, but I was also partying too. I was still out drinking and stuff. And so instantly when I applied a 10-day juice cleanse and looked at myself in the mirror, you looked amazing. My eyes would sparkle. My skin looked amazing. And so I was hooked right there in the beginning. And for the past 30 years, I practiced some form of fasting, cleanse, and detox at least 3 to 4 times a year, whether it's a liver flush, a dry fast, a water fast, juice fast, 3 to 4 times a year for the last 30 years. The proof is in the pudding. And now the science is starting to catch up with it. I saw it on Joe Rogan, a couple of longevity experts. Fasting is the key to longevity, period. And so whether it's, there's many ways to fast. There's many ways to cat. So you can do intermittent fasting, dry fasting, juice fasting. There's many different, I like to do even calorie restricted. And some people say anything that goes through the liver is not fasting. What I've learned in this industry is everyone has their own approach. Mm-hmm. You got to find out what is going to uniquely work for you in the present moment, because it may not work 10 years down the road. And so that's how I got into health and nutrition. I kept on modeling for many years. And then I was partying like a rock star. I was a 4-time Versace model. I was traveling all around the world. And drugs and alcohol are free, and there's lots of women and fun times, party times. And I had a great time. But eventually, that stuff is short-lived. Yeah. And I was just like, I got to sober up my lifestyle. And so I started meditating. It took me about 4.5 years to sober up, literally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then eventually I found my way to meditation. I started studying with S.N. Goenka. I did 11 courses of silent meditation. So they're 10-day courses of silent meditation. I did 11 of those in 6 years. And that rewired my nervous system. And then from there, I started working with Maori healers kind of at the same time. So in Los Angeles, the city of angels, I found a lot of healing here. Mm-hmm. And I started working with the healing community, and I found the Maori healers, these New Zealand shaman that do body work. And I witnessed many miracles and had my own miracles. And so I worked with them for the last 22 years. And then soon after that, maybe 5 or 6 years after I started meditating, somebody turned me on to this herbal company from the Amazon rainforest. And I already had a background in herbal medicine and was using herbs all the time. And these herbs just took my consciousness to a whole different level. And I started working with this company, and I started getting paid in the health and wellness industry as well. And then I started working in the Amazon with the shaman, the Shipipo shaman, drinking the ayahuasca, had a huge awakening, had 3 powerful visions, came out of the jungle, and YouTube was a brand new reality. And I started sharing these messages on YouTube. And so from there, that's pretty much brings you up to, full speed now. And then I've got, for the last 13 years since then, I've just been sharing everything that I've learned and known and practiced for the past 30 years on the YouTube, on the Instagram, and the Facebook.
Yeah, that's an amazing journey, and undoubtedly lots of ups and downs. And I'm excited to talk to you about the ayahuasca experience, particularly how it informed your parenting and your relationships. And but first, I'll ask you, at what point along the way were you introduced to family life?
Well, I was in the Amazon in 2006, and I think I was about 40. I was about 40 or 41 then. I think it was 40. And so the children down there, the energy down there, just being in the tropics and being in the jungle, people are so open. They're sensual, and there's many children on the street there at the edge of the river. There's restaurants and stuff, and a lot of kids begging and, shoe shining and stuff like that, to get money. And then I just remember the little girls, and they couldn't have been more than like from 2 to like 4 or 5. And they were so precious and so open and vulnerable. And I thought, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Because in America, everybody's got their kids a little shrouded up, and then they're moving them into the soccer mom van and out and in and out. And it's just a different energy.
Yeah.
It's a completely different energy. And, here I am sitting on the Malecon of the river, eating at a restaurant, and I've got all these beautiful children around me, and it really touched my heart. And even the boys, at one time I went and bought, I was buying them dinners, and the dinners were only, 50 cents a piece. Yeah. But let me tell you, you still run out of money eventually, And so, and I was buying them sneakers and stuff, and it's like an empty bucket. And, but I was so just enamored with just the children in general. And I thought how innocent and how beautiful, and especially the little girls. There was just really something special about the little girls. Then my intention touching down in the Amazon was to open up my heart and to connect with the divine feminine in all of its facets.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I connected with, quite a few women down there. I drank the ayahuasca, which is known as the grandmother. You're in the heart of the rainforest, which is Mother Earth. There were so many aspects that I connected with with the divine feminine. And so my intentions, my prayers were answered. And one of my first ceremonies, a vision came to me, and it was the spirit of my daughter. And I wasn't in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't married. I haven't really contemplated about it. I hadn't really given it some serious thought. I thought, eventually I'll have children, but I was also 40,
Yeah.
and it was just like, all right, when, and then I came home from that experience, and I go, they say you're never ready. And I think I was just about as ready. And so I started interviewing women. Hey, is it you? Is it,
Yeah.
This is LA. This is Los Angeles. So people are like, yeah, no, buddy, that's not me. I'm clear on that. And then a girl that I wasn't even really that interested in for a long-term relationship, we actually, had a really good friendship, and that just blossomed. And she was a Korean national, and she had problems with her visa. And so I just said, hey, look, I'll get married. I don't even really believe in marriage in the first place, so I'll just marry you. And then we fell in love and had children, and it was such a beautiful experience. And again, I don't believe in marriage. It's not like, I think there's covenants that are important, but as far as the paperwork and the way the society is set up, I see the pitfall behind that, the trap on so many different levels. Do I see it? Because once shit hits the fan, then it's all this legalese, and here's your, red carpet of, you can either get back at this person or get that, or, hire these attorneys. It's just a big fucking game. And when I got divorced, I told my wife, I said, no paperwork and no courts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. You won't find me in a courtroom. And she honored that. And it's been a beautiful experience. In fact, our relationship is still going. I mean, anybody who thinks they're going to be divorced
With kids.
and that's going to be it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with kids.
That's when the party starts.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You have one choice. You can either rise up spiritually and get over your stuff, or you can continue to walk through hell. And I was just like, all right, I've had enough of hell. I was like, where's my part in this, and how can I do better?
Yeah. So what'd your life look like when your first child was born? Had you started your online career aspect of your career at that time?
Yes, it had already begun. So he was born in 2007. I dropped my first YouTube video in 2006, late 2006. And I was posting stuff. And then I think some of my ayahuasca stuff started to get attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I went pretty niche without even trying to go niche. I was just natural medicine or health and consciousness, and which is very broad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I covered ayahuasca in the Amazon, and that got some attention. And then, because there was only a handful of people doing ayahuasca back then.
Yeah.
And then we had natural childbirth in my living room. I delivered my son,
Yeah.
and that got, millions of views right off the bat.
So that is recorded and on YouTube right now.
Yes.
Oh,
I think
that's
it's hard
amazing.
to find. They keep changing the algorithms, but you would have to go onto my channel and then scroll back to either my most popular videos or the history of my videos, my first videos first. It's really hard to find even my own stuff on YouTube, and it makes sense because there's billions or
Untold
videos
amounts.
out.
So how'd seeing your son's head crowning impact you? Was it an inflection point in your life?
It's funny that you asked that question, and this is not the typical question that I get, Tyler. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you asked it, because it was an abstract concept before the crowning. It was still like, oh, I'm going to be a dad, but it's not really a reality. until the crowning.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the crowning came out, you guys can watch this video. It's on my YouTube channel. When he came out, you know, it was a reality. It went from an idea to a reality, because again, her body's not my body. So I wasn't going through the whole process. I was only witnessing it. And it was still conceptually an idea as opposed to a reality. And it wasn't until the crowning. And that's actually when I first touched his head. And I was like, oh, he's coming. I was like, I didn't want to laugh, cry, or run, or I don't know. I was like, he's coming. And I was just so happy. And you see that video, he looks like a little alien too. And, you know, there he was. And he had a double nuchal too. We had a midwife, and God, she was a champion. She didn't even blink an eye, you know, no stress or anything. She just unwrapped the cord around his neck, and he came out and he was healthy. And it was a beautiful experience all the way around.
Yeah, my sister, who would adore you and vice versa, I think, just had a baby on the 1st, a week ago, had a midwife, tried to do the water birth. Everything went sideways. She just got out of bed for the 2nd time yesterday. It was a pretty traumatic experience, but she's one of the toughest people I know. And it was really opened my eyes to my sister's capacity, besides the point. But I wonder how
well, you
Troy's...
know, that's actually a good point, because, you know, just because you go natural childbirth doesn't, you know, emergency medicine is handy in a pinch. My daughter ended up in the hospital, and natural childbirth is a beautiful experience. But listen, anything can happen, and the baby's going to come out when it wants to come out. And it's a complete spiritual experience. You can't manipulate it at all. And so I understand.
I'm thankful for
your sister too.
Yeah, thank you. I saw her today. She's got this beautiful little redheaded girl. But I'm very thankful for her ability to go to the hospital, because, you know, it wasn't a couple decades ago that she might not have made it. So it's a special time to be alive, where we're going back to, you know, you feel bad, eat this root, and just in case you can go to the hospital.
Right.
But so Troy is your son. How did your life change now that you've got a new person, a new entity in your life?
You know, I don't want to put things in too overly simplistic terms, but I guess what's coming to me right now is maybe I was just living my own little selfish existence. And I don't use selfish like most people do in our society as a negative term, because I think we're all selfish. And those that are not taking care of themselves first and foremost are actually a burden on others. So if they're acting selfless or acting like a martyr, and everyone should give them attention for being the martyr, you know, that is not being selfless ultimately. So I would just have to say that there was a certain level. I was living my own little selfish life, my own, you know, personal existence, really just paying attention to myself. And now I have a young human being, and I guess the depth and level of falling in love with something outside of yourself, that was new. It was almost like Christmas every single day, you know. You know, you get your little present, and I just cherished it. You know, I was just like, you know, I've always been an entrepreneur, so I work for myself. So I put them in the little sack, and I just went off on my day and continued to be myself, and he was just a part of it. So I would just say it went from being, is it selfish, self-absorbed? Not that I'm some kind of narcissistic egomaniac or anything, but I think we all have our, you know, we're all living in our own bag of skin. So, but I finally had, you know, something outside of myself to pay more attention to, and love as deeply as I love myself. There you go.
That I tell people who haven't had kids yet, that are pregnant maybe, that whatever emotion that you have does not compare to the depth of the emotion that you can have after you've had a kid. You can be more scared, you can love deeper, you can have more patience or whatever it is. They just expand everything about you.
Mm.
So as an entrepreneur with a new baby and eventually a daughter as well, from a practical standpoint and running your own business, did you have to make a lot of adjustments in how you ran Certified Health Nut and your related businesses?
Yeah, well, one of the first things, I mean, I'm an artist by trade, and as much as I try and put structure into my business, I'm just an artist, you know. And it's like, you know, how do you corner Picasso or, you know, Jimi Hendrix, and, you know, how do you make them do their thing? You know, you don't. It has to be inspirational. And so the more I get stuck in confines, the more challenging. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't set intention and clear goals and work towards, you know, bigger and better outcomes. So so that's for sure. So I've been kind of, you know, shotgun approach like an artist, just making my content, making my creations, and then monetizing that is two separate businesses, right?
Yeah.
There's your art, and then there's monetizing that. Mm-hmm. So those are very two separate things. And I'm good. I'm decent at both, but I'm definitely better at my art. And the business can sometimes drive me cuckoo. So I've learned how to let that go and attract others that are adept at doing that. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question specifically, ask the question again.
Yeah, were there any practical changes that you made?
Yes.
Yeah.
My sleep. Yeah. So I was kidding myself. And at this level of my education, I hadn't studied that much circadian rhythms and sleep hygiene. And I was exhausted, and the sleep deprivation and the you know, the little movements at night that just wake you up, and you know, or 3 months into it, you know, the crying fits, or you helping your spouse get the baby because she's exhausted. You know, it's just this whole wheel of exhaustion. And I started studying with Paul Chek at the Chek Institute at the time, and his whole thing on sleep and sleep hygiene. I was just like, all right, here's the science. You can't really get away from that biologically. So boom, 10 p.m. is my target. And that changed my life, because I was doing emails and editing till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning when everybody's asleep. And I was trying to get some work done uninterrupted. Because as you know, as an artist or a digital nomad, you know, focus is everything. It takes 20 minutes to refocus the human mind. With the amount of interruptions I've had for the last 10 years, man, it's surprising I've gotten anything done.
Yeah, sure.
And so just that refocusing of the mind, that it's, you know, thinking is catabolic. And so it takes a lot of energy to do that. And so so that made sense. So as soon as I started getting in bed at 10, you know, my health started to improve, my energy started to improve. And so I would say sleep right there. Most important thing you got to understand as a parent.
That is huge. I just started measuring my sleep and the quality of it, and just the nature of measuring it has impacted my desire to have a better sleep. And I can tell you, I feel a hell of a lot better when I'm well slept, and I'm better to my kids and my business when I'm well slept.
Correct. And this is the essence of what I do in holistic health. A lot of it has to do with maintaining my own equilibrium and balance within inside of myself, so I can be a better father, a better husband, a better, you know, more balanced human being. You know, basically I have my own trauma and my own mental and emotional issues. And if I don't maintain myself biochemically, psychologically, and physiologically, then I'm an asshole. And I don't like being an asshole. It's not my true heart. And so all my studies and practices really revolve around just calming my nervous system and being as balanced as possible.
So to parents who are kind of new to the concept of, I don't know, being self-aware and healthy. I get the feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but I want to hear it from you. Like, what is a very first step that a parent who's, disorganized can take to be more mindful, healthier?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think it's very important that everyone study glyphosate and understand that your food's been poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
Just first and foremost, demystify it for yourself. Don't make nutrition, because the nutrition is the one input that you're doing every single day.
Yeah.
So demystify nutrition first and foremost. Once you start going down that rabbit hole, you realize, oh, the government and these businesses, they don't have my best interest at hand. They're not going to have my baby's best interest at hand.
Yeah.
And
Follow
so
the money.
Follow the money, and just understand that, agribusiness, pharmaceutical companies, oil companies, weapon manufacturers, media, these are the dominant industries that control thought and control commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to understand this at a very high level if you're going to be, what I teach my men in my men's group is, a true warrior, or the definition of a man in a tribe, he understands what's to eat on the horizon and what potentially might eat him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're aware of what's happening, but we don't live in that world, although we still have those biochemical instincts and those primal urges inside of us.
Yeah.
We're 200 years past the industrial age.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things on the terrain have changed, and you add to that propaganda and everything that Hitler used and then was co-opted and adopted into our CIA. You start to realize the human mind's been programmed against our primal instincts. Mm-hmm. So you start to take away all the mainstream things, and you get back to nature as best as possible. Natural circadian rhythms, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., lots of research done on that. It's just rising and falling of the celestial bodies, the moon and the sun. Your hormones are pegged to that. Understanding that about, hormone health. Understanding, how food works and what has happened to the food supply. And that's not even getting into the chemical toxicity from burning fossil fuels to rubber or synthetic rubber on tires that wears out and goes into dust, and we're all breathing that in. That's just two small things that are out there in the environment. We're not even starting to talk about electromagnetic radiation and pollution. Mm-hmm. So there are many, many things affecting the biochemistry, the physiology, and the psychology of human beings that are unseen stressors, big strikes against you, because the oldest trick in the book is divide and conquer. So when men and women start having trouble or energy, there's energy problems, or even if there's money problems, what happens is, instead of banding together and getting with the tribe, we also didn't have grandparents around to watch the children for us. So we were completely exhausted. Yeah. And when we got sick or underneath the weather, that was it. You have yourself to survive. And so if you have immediate family in the area and they are helping you, thank God for that. Yeah. Because that will break a human being down. And when the stresses come out between the man and women, instead of getting together, they fight amongst each other. This is classic divide and conquer. And so going into your marriage, going into this, all understanding I think is very important, because there are going to be major stresses, major challenges that come up. This is part of the spiritual life. This is what you're here to do, to go through. And having children is just another echelon of your own spiritual development. Or like you said, everything gets magnified through the love of the child. And perfect example is my patience, man. The amount of patience I've been able to build in 12 years, I could have never done that as a single individual. So these are some of the pitfalls and traps that I highly recommend people become aware of. You don't need to turn it into a conspiracy or anything. look at just the way business is run, really understanding the terrain, especially if you're a man, really understanding the terrain on how things are run, not just taking everything at face value, pumping gasoline into your car. Where does that come from? Using paper currency. Where does that come from? Why do they bail out the banks after, they took away my mother's house? Like, what's behind all this stuff? So really understanding it, not to go down the rabbit hole, but just at least to navigate it to some degree, then set your intention from your heart's desire to create something different, something beautiful, something to call forth. And so what I'm doing with my men's work right now is, look, my little holistic lifestyle is all for naught. If I don't do something in this world, let's just put it this way. The health statistics when I started Certified Health Nut were 62% obesity rate and like 20-something diabetes rate. And the cancer rate wasn't 1 and 2, which it is now. So statistically, we're at 70% obesity or overweight right now. That's almost 10% in about 10 years. That's exponential growth. 70% is close to 100%. If I don't do something, I'm going to become a health statistic.
Right.
So it's truly up to me, to make a difference. I understand, and not to mention about making the world a better place. My wife is really concerned about me putting food on the table for the kids right now. I'm cool with that, right? I'm cool with that. I know that's part of my duty. But my big picture stuff as a man is I see this on the horizon. If I'm not doing something for my kids, for my own expression, my genetic expression, then basically when my kids are older, hellfire is basically what's going to be, we're going to be walking through hellfire on this planet. And I've already seen the vision in 2006. Humanity makes it. We pull a rabbit out of a hat and heal our problems, solve our problems.
You
I had to get some medicine. We had black mold exposure in one of our homes right after my daughter came.
Yeah.
And I got serious compromise, upper respiratory infections. And I've healed almost 100%. But boy, when I get a little cold or something comes down the pipeline, I get hit and it affects my whole body. I had full-blown autoimmune issues. I had intermuscular pain. I had complete chronic fatigue, 5-6 days having to rest in bed. And so I'm recovering from something right now. And I wish it was a lot easier just to not get sick and not have to recover. But, this has to do with what we've done to this planet. I can also feel the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi affects me. And, I'm running my business on that too. So being aware is, I think, very important.
Yeah, I've got a significant shopping cart full on Blue Shield right now, so I can go get some of that Tesla Tech EMF blocker. Of course, got the blue light going right now. But man, you went over so much awesome stuff that I wish we had 6 hours to unpack. But I'll just pin one thing and then jump into something else. The first, talking about glyphosate. Are you familiar with Jesse Itzler?
Yes, he's been on Joe Rogan. I don't know him. I don't know him personally, but I do know who he is.
I had the tremendous fortune of getting to talk with him on this podcast, and he is currently shooting a documentary about the way these large corporations are targeting children and just shoving trash into their face, specifically cereal. So it might be of interest to you to pay attention to and help, promote that message. But programming of the mind and education, I want to ask you how you intend to educate or continue educating your children, how they've been educated, and if you could, how would you change it?
So my children go to a Steiner school. Rudolf Steiner was a living master, in my humble opinion. He discovered or developed biodynamic farming, which is the highest level of organics. It's the Demeter certification. Francis Ford Coppola, I think, has a winery that's Demeter certified. So biodynamic is just the highest level of organics. And he developed the Waldorf school system, and he also developed his own medicine system, anthroposophy. And so, and my mentor, Paul Chek, is a big Steiner guy. And it just made so much sense. We did an interview. We went down to the school. They treat the child as a spiritual being coming into the physical realm. Brain development, the first 11 years, I think it's really a huge window for the left brain, the right brain creative, imagination centers of the brain. And once those get, shut down or stifled, that's kind of it. There's a real open, window for that. And whether you adopt the philosophy or not, I'm seeing the results. There's a zero media policy in the school. So the kids are, their neck isn't all craned into the data ports. As a father, I'm connected to the data ports, and when my kids are around, they're not allowed on them. So I have to be more mindful and stay off them as much as possible and get engaged. And the Waldorf school, they also use natural fibers, so wool and silk and wood. And so they get a real tactile sense of the natural world. And they study many abstract things viscerally, so planting food. So by the time they go in later on and study these concepts abstractly through science in textbooks, they'll have already had a visceral experience of planting a seed and it growing in soil, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's many levels of the teaching, and the Waldorf school system teaches the children how to think, not what to think. And so, and it's pretty awesome, the development. They study all the art and how to draw, and they actually develop their own textbooks. So they get all the materials, they bind them, they draw the pictures, they study the concepts, and then they draw the pictures. So for example, you're studying MLK and his great speech. They'll do a portrait of him, they'll write his speech down. Maybe some of the class, they get up and they'll speak it. They do a lot of theater there as well. Not a lot, but I think like each year they do one theater piece. I know that. It's just a very beautiful, engaging school. And again, it's not about what to think, it's about how to think. And then what are my results, right? Because this is all theory. So when I'm out in the public, what consistently gets said is that your children are amazing. Yeah. They are intelligent. They are engaged. They are present. Your children are the most interesting humans I've met in a long time. Your children are intelligent. Your children are beautiful. Your children are smart. This is consistently, and they're engaging with the adult populace. And so there is no kind of like adult kid kind of play thing going on. Like my kids are very engaging. And so, and those are my results. Those aren't bragging rights. Yeah. I'm just saying I'm raising little humans. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm not raising kids and children. These things are high spiritual beings that have come in from the spiritual plane. I don't want to dumb them down. Yeah. And so the Waldorf school system does that. If this vaccination thing gets out of hand where they force vaccination, I've done massive amounts of research on vaccination. There's no way that I am going to put those harmful, toxic substances, biochemistry, into their bloodstream. I have done my research extensively to the point where I've researched that you can go on the government website. It is extremely hard to sue the government to pay for a vaccine-injured child, yet $4 billion has been paid out. Not to mention, it is the only industry where a manufacturer is exempt for its liability of the products. That is a fucking conflict of interest. That is a huge red flag. What industry does not allow the manufacturer of their products to be liable for any kind of damage caused by their products? This is collusion and corruption at its highest and finest. And I'm not saying vaccines may or may work. They might have some validity. However, I have seen no proof on their efficacy or their safety. The way they do a lot of these studies and the way they release a lot of the propaganda, that has no ballast in reality as far as scientific fact. And so I encourage everyone out there listening to this that may have contention with what I'm saying to read Suzanne Humphreys' Destroying Illusions, to watch and follow the career of Robert Kennedy Jr., watch what he says in his speeches, really understand that. And if you don't want a brain damaged child or an autistic child, and remember, the CDC whistleblower, William Thompson, came out in 2014 saying that they buried 10,000 pages of documents showing a 236% increase in African-American boys for autism after they were injected with the MMR vaccine from Merck, which Merck is in court right now being sued on many different levels. So with all this controversy, my intuition was like, whoa, wait a second. Dude, isn't there, like, do I trust in God? Did God create an immune system? And maybe I just need to trust that, and I'm cool with that. And you know what? Death is a part of life. And if something tragic happens to my children, hey, there's their spiritual path, okay? And they'll have to live that. But do I need to inflict that upon them?
So my wife and I are having that conversation now. And were you and your kid's mom on the same page with that? Was that a conversation you guys had to have or hash out, or was it just like you both knew and it was done?
Well, I did my research, and then she started getting caught up in the panic and fear of the other women in the neighborhood. And we go to a private school, and a lot of intelligent, wealthy, entertainment people are in there. A lot of them have done their research. In fact, our kids are in school with the one Cosby kid. She was on the Phil Donahue show years ago. You can find those clips talked about all the time. And she made some really fundamental common sense points back then. This was 20, 30 years ago. So, there's already a lot of consciousness like that at the school. And look, if vaccines work, we're already at herd immunity. I think we're 97% vaccinated population. So if they work, what's the fucking problem? If a handful of people doesn't want to be vaccinated, herd immunity is already reached. And so I'm just trying to sidestep some serious brain damage. And the way I see it is I see the difference between my children and other children out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally night and day. I see it I take my kids down to Muscle Beach. I take them, even the development, the gross motor skills to the fine motor skills. My kids are learning needlepoint and knitting, and they're learning how to play on the monkey bars. And early on, when we first started taking my son to school, he didn't have the gross motor skills. So we started researching that. And the teachers told us just get them out there and play and climbing trees and stuff. And now that we're on the monkey bars down at Muscle Beach, kids roll up on them all the time. And it's funny because the kids are like, they don't have the skills. And these are children.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, man, I was running and jumping, playing and myself. And, I got into accidents on the monkey bars and stuff. And, we were playing football on the weekends. We were doing all sorts of stuff. I just don't see that anymore.
No.
And, as above, so below. So our physicality is directly related to our mentality.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ido Portal fan. I've been trying to follow his program for about 18 weeks. And he talks about opening different containers in the body and mind. People try to separate them. And I find that the new movements introduce new thoughts.
That's
Do
right.
you feel the same way and apply the same practice to your kids?
Full integration. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is the kids, they don't need that much the teaching.
Yeah.
They're animals. They're wild animals. Just put them out into the nature, and they're going to figure it out for themselves. I learned this early on. You sit them in a 4-corner room, and and there's Wi-Fi on in there, eventually, there's all toxic smells coming off the furniture and everything. Eventually, they're going to start throwing things against the window and like fighting against each other. So I realized early on, you just take them out of the house, you put them in the park, and they will play with sticks and rocks and sand for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. No complaints, nothing.
Yeah.
So nature heals everything is one of my main principles that I teach, I promote, and I've definitely witnessed with my children. And so, but look, I'm a domesticated animal as well. I'm sitting at this desk at my office right now, and with come August, I'm going out for at least a month of camping.
Oh, great. Well, I'm definitely envious of that. I managed 48 hours alone, 6 pages of journals. I read 2 books, and it was an amazing experience. I can only imagine what a month would do. But I want to ask you, going back a little bit, it kind of all comes together about education, and the teachers have their hands on your kids at school. What about when they're outside of school? Like, part of a parent's job is, I guess, to keep their kids in their lane to some extent, or to get out of the way. So I'm talking about discipline, for lack of a better term I haven't come up with. Like, when your kids are behaving in a way that you feel like isn't to their benefit, how do you help bring them back or center them?
Yeah. Well, I think we're, excuse me, I think we're all doing the best we can. And, I'm a bit of an authoritative. I think my ex-wife is more permissive, and I see the pitfalls with both of them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just my energy. I don't always have the perfect words. I see the Waldorf teachers, boy, oh boy, they'll get the kids to do anything. They'll sing a song, and or I'll walk in after school and my son's like sweeping up the floor with a smile on his face. I'm like, what? I'm like, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, you do clean the house. You do know how to clean. Okay. So then it's just trying to figure out, how to say that. And then kids are super intelligent. They're going to try and get away with whatever they can get away with, or manipulate the energy, right? Because it's all about the energy. So if they know I get a little aggravated because the house is messed up, and they play with that energy. They make excuses, or whatever the mother will allow them to get away with. They'll try and do it with me, which really gets underneath my skin, which is one of the main reasons why we got divorced, because our parenting styles were so separate. And I couldn't handle the discipline aspect, because I played Mr. Mom. We're both working. Her business is doing good. My business is doing good. My business goes down. Actually, my business was doing really well, and she quit her business. When we had my first child. After the second child came, she went back. And so how do I handle with my kids and parenting? Well, first of all, we're divorced now. So in my house, basically the way I see it is I cooked and cleaned for 10 years. So now I don't care whether I made the mess or it's with us together or not. You clean the house, period. Mm-hmm. So you do the dishes. You sweep the floor. You do whatever you can. I don't care what it is, but do something. Yeah. And I'm figuring duties out and just assigning them as they come, kind of a shotgun approach.
Yeah. When they push back, how do you handle that?
When they push back, then because they always want certain things, so they don't get that. Yeah. They get a heavy dose of tough shit. So, and the way I teach them. And I love administering a heavy dose of tough shit. Because guess what? As soon as me got into the real world, and how much tough shit is out there.
Couldn't agree more. I mean,
it's potentially around every corner. Yeah. So my methodology is keep them close to me. Mm-hmm. No nannies, no babysitters. I want all the glory. Yeah. I want all the glory. So, because we already heard about the terrible teens and all this stuff and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Hey, it's coming. Yeah. So when that comes down the pipeline, I want them to know and recognize they can come to Dad anytime for anything, and I'll be right here, no problem.
That's awesome.
So, and I want them as close to me vibrationally, close to my heart as physically possible. That's my whole strategy.
It's awesome. Yeah, Sadhguru said, if your hands aren't on your kids, somebody else's will be. So I want to ask you two questions because I want to jam it in, be sensitive to your time, and then I want to get to like the quick, short answers. But I want to ask you about Man Tribe next. But the first thing I want to ask you is about psychedelic experiences. I've never had one, but I'm curious to know how you would kind of, give a briefing on what that's like, and if it did, how a psychedelic experience informed your parenting.
Informs, right? So Paul Stamets is saying that psychedelics, mushrooms specifically, is creating neuroplasticity. So it's actually opening up new pathways so you can think differently and feel differently and operate differently. And I have used psilocybin mushrooms as nutrition for many, many, many years, microdosing, et cetera, megadosing for spiritual clearing out my own anger and trauma patterns, long history of that, in my life, and always working to better myself. So I've done deep dives with megadosing, and then really just utilizing it as brain food with microdosing. With the ayahuasca is just a very powerful spiritual plant. It is here to heal humanity. It is going to penetrate the liver, the gallbladder, the intestines, but more importantly, the nervous system where we hold our beliefs. And so most of our beliefs are not even ours, and they can be holding us back on unconscious and subconscious levels that show up as self-sabotage behavior. And so psychedelics are a tool. Terence McKenna wrote a book called Food of the Gods. I recommend reading that. If you want to read another scientific document, read Rick Strassman's DMT, the spirit molecule, to really understand the power of these natural medicines that have walked the face of the planet since the beginning of time. My mentor in the Amazon said, when things go haywire in the world as they are today, man goes back to the origins. And these are our original foods, our original medicines.
Love it. Now, did those experiences, so is it fair to, I hate to try to rephrase what you said and put words into your mouth, but is it fair to suggest that those experiences opened your minds up to make you a better person, which makes you by default a better parent?
Absolutely, 100%. Because if I did no spiritual work and just stuck into, what's our religion today? Our religion is capitalism. It's not even pure capitalism, unfettered capitalism. It is crony capitalism. So we're dealing with basic socialism, right? So that's the world that we live in. And our religion is, paying homage and to this capitalistic structure. So basically, my religion as a man would just be get to work and do more work. However, the psychedelics have helped me see other dimensions of how I can do honest, sacred work, how I could do work that's aligned with my values and my heart. And I have committed to, instead of just checking out with so many family men that I know, and they just bring in money for the family, my commitment, my sole commitment, working with psychedelics, time and time again, has, whether I fall on my face or not, is to become the best father I can possibly become and the best husband, together or divorced, I can become. And that of the time, even if I fall on my face.
Love it. Tell me about Man Tribe. What is Man Tribe?
Man Tribe is a creation from my partner. He really inspires me. He was a real estate developer, a real estate guy in Manhattan, kid from the Bronx, crushed the real estate market, made tons of money, was extremely unhappy, overweight, had all the chicks and the fast cars and the houses, etc. And he was miserable. Started drinking ayahuasca, woke up, went down to the Amazon, met his wife, walked away from the business world, only to come back. Now his wife, they just had a child, And, now he's coming back into the business world with his open heart, and he inspires me to keep my heart open. I'm quite a bit the warrior. And I can be like mindset of just cutting through the fabric of reality. And then Alex always checks in and makes sure I has my heart open. He wanted to bring all my certified health nut technology, mindset, movement, and nutrition. With the mindset, we focus on purpose, dream, and legacy, which I believe is the most important thing a man can have, is a direction, a drive in life. And what I see and what I saw with myself early on, I didn't have direction. I didn't know who I am. I didn't know what my heart desired. So we spend a lot of time in our workshops and our retreats cultivating that purpose, dream, and legacy. I teach Qigong and nutrition, a lot of yin replenishment as opposed to yang beating the chest. Things that you need to know to keep you well nourished as a man, which is yin, which is part of the feminine. And so I teach a lot of Qigong, breath work, and we do calorie restriction, intermittent fasting, and nutrition.
Awesome. That's at I think it's at man.tribe on Instagram. I know I only got about 10 more minutes with you, so I'll jump into some short answers, but I'm having a blast. I could keep you for the rest of the day. So to come right off of Man Tribe, what's the role of a father?
The role of a father, the role of I think that's an unlimited box to put a man in. It's basically anything you can contribute out of your heart to your family, to your tribe, to what is the role of a man. First of all, our work structure is completely changed. So the roles of men and women have ultimately changed. You can't even really define it.
Yeah.
I changed diapers like no problem. I took that on as a man, let me help you with that, woman. Oh, you're tired, or I got this, no problem. That's me beating my chest. Fucking got this. Change the diapers. I take care of the kids, right?
Yeah.
I'll do whatever it takes. Oh, you're not feeling well, or you have low energy, or you need to go to the gym, or you need to go take some time for yourself. I got this. No problem. I took that as a badge of honor. What? I want to be with my kids 100% of the time, like without even thinking of it. Like it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
They're my kids. I want all the glory. They are going to be teenagers. They're going to be gone eventually. Yeah. And in the meantime, I want them with me at all times.
What's the greatest hope you have for your children?
My greatest hope that I have for my children is that they create a life that they love and loves them back, and they enjoy and experience life to the fullest extent, and they create from their heart's desire that exactly thing that they want or choose or see in their mind's eye.
If we call our life here a book, cover to cover, and about fatherhood, what would be the name of the chapter that you're in right now as a father?
The Path to Deeper Spirituality.
That's a big chapter. All right, here's a softball. Who is one of your favorite fictional fathers? TV, movies, books?
I loved Al Bundy because he was such a fucking funny guy. Actually, my kids go to school with him too.
Oh yeah,
with their kids. But there's also some. What's the misogynist word for men when they treat men? It's just they like downplaying men. I don't like that, the whole Homer Simpson thing. But even though it's funny, I just think that media has a big play on people, and the Al Bundy type of, I'm not even saying that I would want that guy. I just thought he was funny.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
a role model for men, a fictional character, maybe the character in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, because he was so fucking honest with himself.
I don't know the character, but I like the reason. Billboard question. I got 4 questions. If you had a billboard in LA to give a piece of advice to all the dads out there, what would that billboard say?
It would say hashtag ripped at 50 with me and my fucking half naked body right there.
All right. What's a gift that you would give to every single father?
Well, I would say the gift of holistic health, which is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. You know, if I had to simplify that even more, I would say 10 p.m. bedtime, organic food. You know?
We've come full circle. All right. Second to last question. When do you feel the most loved?
Probably when I'm alone and well fed and well rested and kind of like today. You know, I took myself to the gym. I don't have the kids right now. My house is clean. I feel really good. And yeah, so whenever I'm really, really taking care of myself, yeah.
All right. And finally, in the event that this recording lasts forever, generations to come, generations of Casey children and their children, what's a message you'd share with your chain for the rest of time?
Well, I would say that all knowledge is knowledge of self. So know thyself. I would say that self-care and self-love is super important so that you can go out and affect the world around you. Understanding how to take care of your human instrument, I think, is very important. Forgiveness and understanding is at the cornerstone of your mental and emotional health and your spiritual well-being. And so whoever you perceive to be wrong with, work with your own perception, your own attitude, and work with as much forgiveness and release of resentment and understanding as you possibly can. And have fucking fun, man.
That's the perfect way to wrap it up. Troy Casey, certified health nut. YouTube, Instagram is troycasey.com, right?
Certified health nut, Instagram. And yeah, I've got, I don't know, my technical.coms. There's all sorts of stuff up there. Who knows where it's at right now? I got some programs coming out. I got a stress management program ready to be re-released. I've got a breathing program, and we're just going to start knocking them out one by one. I got a good team I'm working with right now, so I'm really happy. So we'll get a lot of stuff out for the people. We got live events. If you're in LA, you can do personal retreats, one-on-one. I have people fly in from all around the world to work with me. We've got the Man Tribe coming up July 12th and 13th. And then we usually have at least one Man Tribe a month, whether that's a workshop or a retreat. And so there's always something going on.
That is so cool. Well, I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experiences. And I hope all the dads out there got a great ideas. I know I did, and I'm super grateful for it.